From the windswept tundras of Alaska to the sun-scorched deserts of Arizona, from the towering peaks of the Rockies to the endless plains of the Midwest, the United States is a vast and varied land, shaped by millennia of geological force and climatic evolution. Spanning nearly 3.8 million square miles, it is the third largest country in the world by land area. Yet what makes America truly remarkable is not just its size, but its geographical diversity. Let us begin in the east. Here, the Appalachian Mountains rise modestly compared to the mighty Rockies, but they are far older, worn down by time into long, forested ridges and deep hollows. This region, rich in biodiversity, was once the frontier of the colonial world. It served as both a barrier and a gateway, influencing patterns of settlement, war, and expansion. The Blue Ridge and Smoky Mountains still stand as ancient sentinels over the east coast, covered in thick forests that blaze with color each autumn. To the east of the Appalachians lies the Atlantic coastal plain, a flat, fertile expanse that stretches from the northeastern states down through the Carolinas and into Florida. This land is where America's colonial history began, where Jamestown was founded, where pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, and where ports like Boston, New York, and Charleston would become gateways to the New World. The region's harbors, estuaries, and navigable rivers enabled the growth of commerce and civilization in the early years of the nation. Moving inland, we arrive at the heartland, the vast interior known as the Great Plains. This region, stretching from the edge of the Mississippi River westward to the Rocky Mountains, is one of the most fertile agricultural zones in the world. For centuries, it was the domain of the Native American tribes such as the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Comanche. With endless seas of grass and rolling hills, the Great Plains are a symbol of American abundance and hardship alike. Here, settlers battled both nature and native resistance as they forged farms and railways across the flatlands. The land itself, once underwater in prehistoric seas, is a repository of fossils and minerals, telling a story long before humans ever walked it. To the south, the Gulf Coast offers a different character. This warm, humid region is shaped by the subtropical climate, with dense bayous, slow-moving rivers, and coastal wetlands. The Mississippi River, one of the longest in the world, dominates this region. Its drainage basin spans 31 states and carries with it both life and destruction. It is a symbol of trade, migration, and change, a highway that helped shape America's economic rise, and at times, its internal conflicts. Vast and rugged, the Rocky Mountains split the nation in two. These mighty peaks rise dramatically, forming a continental divide that directs the flow of rivers either eastward to the Atlantic or westward to the Pacific. The Rockies are home to some of the highest elevations in North America, and within their valleys and slopes lie rich resources: coal, gold, silver, and timber, that fueled the nation's industrial boom. Yet the Rockies are also a natural fortress, an imposing challenge to those who sought to cross them during the era of manifest destiny. For the pioneers and gold seekers, these mountains were both an obstacle and a promise. Beyond the Rockies lies the Great Basin, a vast expanse of desert, salt flats, and arid plateaus. This is a land of extremes: burning summers, freezing winters, and dramatic elevations. It is home to Death Valley, the hottest place in North America, and the Salt Lake of Utah, a remnant of ancient inland seas. For centuries, this harsh terrain resisted colonization, but in its silence, it carries the echoes of indigenous civilizations, Mormon settlers, and the Silver Rush. Westward still, we find the Sierra Nevada and Cascade Ranges, majestic mountain chains that form the spine of the Pacific states. These regions are geologically active, home to earthquakes, volcanic peaks like Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens, and geothermal wonders like those in Yellowstone. The forests here are dense with redwoods and sequoias, some of the oldest and tallest trees on Earth, towering reminders of nature's endurance. At last, we reach the Pacific coast, a narrow strip of land between mountains and ocean. Here lie the great cities of the West: San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle. This region is dynamic and diverse, shaped by tectonic plates, fault lines, and ocean currents. The California current moderates the climate, making the coast surprisingly temperate. Rich in both culture and agriculture, the Pacific Coast produces everything from grapes to software, a true embodiment of American innovation. But the geography of the United States extends beyond the contiguous 48 states. To the northwest lies Alaska, America's final frontier. It is a land of glaciers, forests, and raw, untamed beauty. The tallest peak in North America, Denali, rises here, an icy titan in the subarctic wild. Alaska is a treasure trove of oil, gas, and wildlife. Though remote and sparsely populated, its strategic and economic importance cannot be overstated. In the Pacific Ocean lies Hawaii, a chain of volcanic islands formed by a hot spot beneath the Earth's crust. Hawaii is unique in both geography and culture, far from the American mainland and rich with indigenous Polynesian history. Its volcanoes, including Kilauea and Mauna Loa, are among the most active in the world, constantly reshaping the islands. The lush rainforests, coral reefs, and tropical climate make it one of the most ecologically diverse regions under U.S. governance. Let us not forget the Great Lakes, the largest group of freshwater lakes on Earth by total area. Bordering Canada and the northern U.S., they form an inland water highway that helped build the industrial might of cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland. These lakes are tied to American manufacturing, transportation, and environmental conservation. Their shores have seen battles, shipwrecks, and waves of immigrants seeking new lives. Then there is the Southwest, a region defined by red canyons, mesas, and desert beauty. The Grand Canyon cuts deep into the Earth's crust, revealing 2 billion years of geological history. The region's dry climate, striking rock formations, and rich Native American heritage give it a distinct identity, one of spiritual depth and visual grandeur. The United States, then, is more than a country. It is a continent unto itself, a nation of regions, climates, and landscapes so different that they might seem like separate worlds. From Arctic tundra to subtropical bayou, from alpine peaks to prairie grassland, the U.S. offers an unparalleled canvas of nature's possibilities. And in that variety, we find the roots of America's complexity, culturally, politically, and historically. Geography has always been more than background, it is the silent force shaping destiny. It influences where people live, how they make their living, how they build, how they defend, and how they connect with each other. The natural barriers between regions led to cultural and political divisions. The fertile land gave rise to powerful economies. The rivers became conduits for trade, war, and ideas. And the mountains, deserts, and forests provided both shelter and challenge. Long before the arrival of Europeans, before Columbus crossed the Atlantic and planted the flag of Spain in the New World, the vast and varied land of what is now the United States was home to a mosaic of indigenous civilizations, each one shaped by its environment, its beliefs, and its relationship with the natural world. This was not an empty wilderness awaiting discovery. It was a continent alive with language, trade, knowledge, and tradition. A land walked by millions, governed by complex societies, and held sacred through stories that reached back to the dawn of time. The indigenous peoples of North America did not think of themselves as a single group. They were as diverse as the continent itself. Over time, archaeologists and historians have categorized them into cultural regions, each one defined by geography, resources, and shared lifeways. Let us journey across this land once more, not to marvel solely at rivers and mountains, but to hear the voices of those who called it home. In the Northeast, where forests blanket the hills and lakes carved through the land, the Iroquois Confederacy emerged as a powerful political and cultural force. Also known as the Haudenosaunee, or People of the Longhouse, the Iroquois were not a single tribe but a union of several: the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and later the Tuscarora. Bound by the Great Law of Peace, a sophisticated constitution of sorts, the Iroquois formed one of the earliest examples of participatory governance in the world. Councils of clan mothers and sachems, leaders, debated matters of diplomacy and war, and decisions were made by consensus. Their influence would echo into the formation of American democracy, though rarely acknowledged. In the woodlands of the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest, peoples such as the Ojibwe, Menominee, Potawatomi, and Dakota lived in harmony with dense forests and inland waterways. Birch bark canoes, snowshoes, and intricate fishing systems allowed them to thrive in challenging environments. The rhythm of life here followed the seasons: sugar maple harvest in the spring, fishing in the summer, hunting in the fall, and storytelling through the long winter nights. Language, spirituality, and ceremony were tied to the cycles of the natural world. To the southeast, where rivers meander through fertile plains and the climate fosters year-round agriculture, great mound-building cultures rose and fell. At the height of its power around the 11th and 12th centuries, Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, was the largest city north of Mesoamerica. Its population rivaled that of European capitals. Massive earthen pyramids, arranged in complex geometric patterns, testified to the city's engineering skill, religious devotion, and social organization. The Mississippian culture that built Cahokia spread throughout the southeast, giving rise to other centers like Moundville in Alabama and Etowah in Georgia. The Mississippians practiced intensive agriculture, especially of maize, and developed far-reaching trade networks that carried copper from the Great Lakes, shells from the Gulf, and obsidian from the Rockies. Their society was stratified, with elite ruling classes and religious leaders occupying the great mounds, while commoners lived in surrounding villages. Rituals, human sacrifices, and astronomical alignments indicate a complex cosmology not unlike that of the Maya or Aztec. Further south, the Calusa people of Florida built wooden cities on artificial islands, mastering coastal engineering and constructing vast shell mounds, canals, and fish weirs. They did not rely heavily on agriculture. Instead, they turned the bounty of the sea into civilization. With fleets of dugout canoes and centralized leadership, the Calusa resisted European colonization longer than most. To the plains stretching from Texas to the Canadian prairies, life followed the rhythm of the land. Long before horses arrived, native peoples like the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Iroquois lived in settled villages along rivers such as the Missouri, growing corn, beans, and squash. They built earthen lodges and traded widely. The plains were not yet dominated by the nomadic bison hunters often associated with them today. That transformation would come with the Spanish horse, which turned groups like the Lakota, Blackfeet, and Comanche into masterful riders and mobile societies. But even before this revolution, the plains nurtured rich ceremonial life, including the sun dance, vision quests, and the use of sacred bundles to maintain cosmic balance. In the southwest, geography demanded innovation. The arid deserts and mesas gave rise to one of North America's oldest continuous civilizations, the Ancestral Puebloans, sometimes called the Anasazi. In places like Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde, they built apartment-like cliff dwellings and massive ceremonial kivas. Their architecture aligned with solstices and cardinal directions. With sophisticated irrigation canals and dry farming techniques, they grew crops under a blazing sun. Trade routes extended south into Mesoamerica, bringing turquoise, macaw feathers, and ideas. By the time the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, the Ancestral Puebloans had transitioned into the Hopi, Zuni, and other Puebloan peoples. Their Kachina religion, pottery styles, and corn-based diet reflect ancient continuity. Nearby, the Apache and Navajo would later migrate into the region, adapting and adopting both Pueblo and Spanish influences into their lifeways. The northwest coast offered a different world altogether, a temperate rainforest of towering cedars and an ocean overflowing with salmon. Here lived the Tlingit, Haida, Kwakiutl, and others, peoples whose economies were based on the sea. They lived in large wooden longhouses, carved elaborate totem poles, and celebrated the potlatch, a complex ritual of gift-giving, status affirmation, and social cohesion. Unlike many other regions, the northwest coast supported dense populations without agriculture, thanks to the abundance of marine resources. Their artistry in woodworking, mask-making, and weaving remains among the most sophisticated in indigenous North America. In the Great Basin, a harsh landscape of desert and mountains, the Shoshone, Ute, and Paiute lived nomadic lives shaped by scarcity. They hunted small game, gathered seeds, and wove intricate baskets. Community was often small and mobile, but kinship and oral traditions sustained them through long seasons of hardship.